Okay, we're doing a video on submarines. And as a result, we're also going to be doing a video on combat air patrol. They are both related. Since combat air patrol is the only way you can find a sub. Pretty basic. Can't really define that any better. Alright. I'm going to show a few things here. And most of it is going to be based out of the rule book here. So, I'm just going to move some junk out of my way here. There we go. Alright, let's take a peek here. Page 37. You've got combat air patrol, rather extensive, and then submarines and their combat movement and combat moving past the sub. Page 37, combat movement. You're going to need to know this. Page 42. I got this great big fancy chart showing submarine special rules for attacks and defense. Also something you're going to want to know, so take a flip through that and have it handy. Another thing is unit profiles in the place units section. You have this big section here on submarines. Everything that involves submarines, special rules, blah blah blah, it all refers to coastal subs and advanced subs. So the move blocking, not blocking, how to find them, how to catch them, what they can do. It's all the same unless it specifically says somewhere coastal sub or advanced sub on a stat. Another thing that's going to be interesting, you're going to be able to build submarine bases. There's a submarine base. That's just an example. You can pick that up at Historical Board Gaming, or you can use a little plastic chit or anything else that you want. Post-it note. You call it, you name it, you use it. Alright. They are basically bases for only submarines. It doesn't matter what kind of sub, but only subs. So you can place subs at it, and you can get the extra move for subs at it, but only subs, nothing else. There you go. So that's the submarine base. There's one on the map in Midway if you're interested, in the Pacific. Alright. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of these units. So I'm going to move my whole rig over here, and I'm going to go grab myself the battle boards. Let's start with that. First strike. Oh, I need to get some of this junk out of there. There we go. Let's back up a little bit. Alright, first strike. So, all submarines have first strike ability on attack. If there's no enemy destroyer present, they pick what they kill, and it doesn't shoot back, just like artillery. Coastal sub's not in this little thingy here, but I would assume that it was also in that, as well as the advanced sub. Now, that's the attacker. Notice there's this faded little box that goes around here. Well, this one has a lot more detail on the artwork in the background, but there is kind of a faded little box that goes around. The same artillery and submarine. Technically, by the rules, you don't get the first strike on defense as a submarine, but this is very confusing to some of our new players, and we've tried it a few times, and honestly, it has not really changed the gameplay, and it increases the variety of unit profiles for both attack and defense. And as a result, we had more subs on the board instead of just a pile of destroyers everywhere, which often happens. Alright, and there you go. First strike explained on the battle board. Technically it's only an attack, but it does not hurt to use it in defense. All right. Decline combat. A submarine may decline combat with any group of enemy units that does not include a patrolling or on combat or patrol aircraft or a carrier-based aircraft. That a submarine may remain in the same zone. All right. Combat rating basic. Submerge. A submarine may, in lieu of making its attack or defense roll, retreat but remain in the same sea zone. Once it's done that, and the round has been completed, so the enemy of the sub, either attacking or defending it against it, gets to roll against it first, the same round. Then, instead of rolling an attack or defense, the submarine submerges. Once it's submerged, it doesn't move, it doesn't take off, it doesn't run away, but it no longer gets to be taken as a casualty or cause casualties. And a quick example of that is, let's say these things are here and the submarine's fighting it, and it realizes I missed on the first round, they missed on me, I'm not doing 2 rounds, I'm going to submerge. Done. Well, guess what? You've submerged, but these guys still get to finish the round off attacking you back. So they may still hit you, right? But once that round is over, they can't, no subsequent rounds will start again because you've retreated. However, if other ships of yours are there and they get 2 hits on you after you've submerged, it only counts on this one and it doesn't come off of that. You cannot take this as a casualty once it's submerged, and its round that it submerged is over. There you go. So that's the whole how submarines retreat, and they can obviously retreat separately from everything else that's in the battle because they can stay there and retreat. Submarines can never shoot aircraft. 100%? Never. No sub ever shoots an aircraft in this game. So if you get too many hits, let's say you got these 2 subs here and they move in there and they attack this light carrier. If these subs, let's move that over a little bit. If these 2 subs get 2 hits on this light carrier, they can't shoot the plane. So they only shoot this twice, or shoot this once and waste this shot. So now the plane's still alive. Well, the plane can land now on the island. There you go. Or the plane can stay and fight for forever, and you can never shoot the plane, so you're probably going to submerge these subs at that point in time, because you'll never be able to shoot the plane, but the plane can keep shooting you, right? There you go. Let's see, what else do I need to do? That's about it for that section. Oh yes, target selection. Can't forget that. All submarines have a target selection at 1. So that would mean coastal subs and advanced subs also get the target selection of 1. So you roll in here and you roll a 1. Doesn't really apply, right? But if you got this, suddenly what the submarine decides to pick as a kill makes a difference, right? They only get first strike round 1, so killing the destroyer doesn't matter. They're no longer surprising you. But they could say get 2 hits and eliminate that completely, right? Target selection, handy. If it was a first strike, then it wouldn't shoot back. But since it's the destroyer's there, this will still shoot back at you. Important to clarify that one. All right. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And the only way you can, okay, so that's the attacking subs. Now, attacking submarines can have their movement blocked in certain ways. All right, let's go over here. Italian sub can go through this Navy here and right through the Straits of Gibraltar, even at war with the British. Unless the British have a fighter from somewhere and they put it on combat air patrol. Now the sub can't move through and must stop. And it has to fight at least one round against this combat air patrol aircraft. And by fighting, it could just submerge, right? However, there's also these British ships here, so they would also fight. And so would this French stuff, if they were aligned. I'm assuming they are at this point in time, but you never know. And that is how combat air patrol can block movement. Another thing that could have been done to block movement is there could have been a carrier-based aircraft. And it essentially does the same thing. Because you're under the assumption that the carrier-based aircraft doesn't just sit there. It's going to patrol the sea around the carrier and as a result will spot the sub. There you go. The only two ways to block submarine movement. There you got them. All right, so that's that. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of combat air patrol, because I just showed you how it can stop a sub, but I didn't explain what it is. So, that can be found. I need to grow my hair or something. On page 37, there's a rather substantial section on combat air patrol. It also describes moving through subs or having subs move through other ships. So, 37, combat air patrol. Form of combat that is made on the combat move of the turn of the player with the aircraft that they're putting on combat air patrol. Move from a land zone into a sea zone and remain until recalled. And you can leave them until the non-combat move of that same turn, if they came from a land zone. Or you can leave them 3, 4, 5 turns. You can put it on combat air patrol in 1936 and leave it there until the end of the game. Or you could take it off any turn that you decided on the combat move of that plane. You wanted to use it. There you go. That's the land-based combat air patrol length, as long as you want. Now let's go into carrier aircraft. Carrier aircraft must return to their carrier in the non-combat movement phase of each turn and may not remain on patrol. Important thing to remember. All right, there's that. So in order to start a vehicle on or aircraft on combat air patrol, any aircraft except for a strategic bomber can shoot Navy. So they can all be put on combat air patrol. They all have a patrol range of 1 unless otherwise specified. And the move the patrolling aircraft 1 space. So from here to here, that would be 1 space. And place them on combat air patrol. If enemy units are present, then combat occurs. But if no enemy units are present, you can just maintain combat air patrol then instead. Right? There you go. An aircraft on combat air patrol may opt to return to base, blah, blah, blah. So if you remain on patrol, you can defend against arriving enemy Navy. So this is, you can actually use combat air patrol to essentially scramble your planes without an airbase in advance. There's no limit and no airbase is required. This is a weird one, but I'm gonna show this. So I'm gonna get a couple ships here. So let's just say that you have 11 fighters in Gibraltar. We put all 11 fighters on combat air patrol right here with these little bit of a Navy. That's quite a bit of stuff, right? So now this comes in and it gets blocked and combat starts. Oh, but you also moved all this stuff in here. Well, guess what? You just scrambled 11 planes in advance of this invasion or incursion. So that incursion may not even happen. So little things to keep in mind with combat air patrol. Unlike escorting warships on escorting a convoy line, they do block movement when they're on combat air patrol. Specifically sub movement, but everything else as well. The combat air patrol vehicles will be eliminated if they're either killed during the combat that they're in, or if they survive. And this would be, British put them on combat air patrol. Now it's somebody else's turn, and let's just say the Italians took Gibraltar, northern Algeria, Tunis. The Spanish are still neutral, so nothing within one move is a landing zone for these planes. So now they just die instead. They just disappear. So there you go. A couple of options in how combat air patrol works that way. And I'm going to move to the Pacific here, and we're going to show you an example of why the range is 1 and the carrier aircraft have to return to the carrier. Well, one, a carrier with no planes doesn't block sub movement, but you can't leave them on combat air patrol in the middle of the ocean when they have a range of 0, because they just automatically die, right? But let's just say the Italians got subs out here. Well, you can't just truck on over here 3 spaces and take that sub out. You need to be on combat air patrol. You can't just fly in a straight line and get to it. So the other thing that this aircraft carrier can do is it can either non-combat move to here, because subs won't block its movement into that zone. However, they could decide to attack it. Right? Or the sub could decline combat and submerge. Except for there's aircraft here. But they're not on the aircraft until they land on their non-combat move, right? Now, these 2 aircraft could go on combat air patrol here. Then the carrier moves there. Let's move a couple of these chips down. So they move combat air patrol there. The aircraft carrier moves past them. Now they come back. Now they go on combat air patrol here and here. And then the carrier moves to there, right? And then they move back. That's how you're going to have to move to eliminate subs in the Atlantic. The whole purpose of the combat air patrol is to simulate the air gap, which means you need to place carriers in the ocean to increase your combat air patrol locations. That's the point. That's the whole point of that. Range of 1, return to the carrier. That's it. All right. I got an example on blocking movement with subs. And then I think I'm done here. I'm going to do a second part here on an Australian attack. So let's do a British move here, a British combat move. So they're starting off here. Well, the British want to get past this sub, but maybe they want to kill it. So they put this on combat air patrol. Well, they can't fly this plane to here and then do that, right? Because it's a range of 2. So that's all they can do. But since they've done that, these ships can no longer move through here because they will stop, right? So maybe they don't do that. And they decide to float all these ships through, right? And when the ship moves, the carrier moves independently of its aircraft. So the sub does not block your movement of a carrier. And the plane is not on combat air patrol, so it flies over. and then it can attack here and land there, right? Well, that's if the sub lets you do that. The sub decline combat, but they don't have to decline combat. They could say, nope, you're not getting past. And then you got this plane that's flying over to here, right? And it can land over here somewhere else, so it's still valid. But these ships can't get involved because the sub won't let you by. So what's your alternative? Well, your alternative is this. You go 1, I'm losing my navy here, 2, 3, and you attack that way, bypassing the subs. And if you still wish, the aircraft can either get involved in that attack, or you can place it on combat air patrol and have the aircraft carrier move down here and then have it come back, right? And you can also place that one on combat air patrol as well and leave that one on, but return this one to the carrier. That way this sub is blocked from moving from here and there, or past here or there. It's effectively blocking the sub in to the Suez, or the pathway leading to the Suez, but locking them out of the rest of the Indian Ocean and the Pacific eventually. So there you go. That's a couple ways that subs can block your movement. And remember, it says submarines may decline combat, but submarines never have to. Submarines can block any Navy ship at once, but the only ones it has to block are the ones that have combat air patrol in the CMC zone, attacking it. Right? You started a battle, you can't float past it. And that's it. So I'm going to leave you there. And yeah, basics: submarines have first strike unless there's a destroyer on the enemy side. Submarines can retreat and stay in the same Z zone by submerging, and submarines can block movement or not, depending on the submarine. And the only thing that can find a submarine is aircraft on combat air patrol. And what's the other thing here? Submarines can never shoot aircraft. So this is a lose-lose for the sub. You're better off to just submerge, because you can stay in there 10 rounds, but you'll never be able to shoot a plane. So what's the point? But that just gives the plane 10 shots on you, right? All right, I'll leave you there, and I'm going to add on a little second part to this video. I'm planning on showing a couple of crazy sub attacks and how the subs are very useful to attack carriers. I know, even when they got planes that they can't shoot. And hope this finds you happy, and have a good day. Bye. Okay, I'm back for part 2 of this video. An example of how to use submarines to be very annoying. Especially to carriers. Because the glorious thing about submarines, they don't shoot planes. So none of the hits made by a submarine will affect your planes. This is a situation that can occasionally happen, especially against the Japanese when they're using their destroyers as transports. This is the Japanese turns just ended. They've taken Dutch New Guinea, the Maluku Islands, and Celebes here, right? So they've brought in this transport and delivered a couple guys, and used the destroyer to deliver that guy, which is why this whole fleet's not together. That's just an example, right? So now let's say that the Australians every turn have been building a submarine. Well, this could be rather annoying if they do something like this. That's an annoying attack there. Submarines here, submarines there. Now, the odds are that these guys may not be fully successful, and they're probably going to get killed off, but you never know. Your objective here is just to kill some ships. So these two submarines come in. They're here in this fight, right? Well, the submarines can't hit the plane. So if they get 2 hits, the carrier and the destroyer are gone. So now the plane's on the land. No big deal, right? That's nothing to sweat about. But let's say that this isn't theirs. I'm just going to use this one as an example here. We have 2 shots on the fleet here. You can't shoot the plane. Well, let's say, let's throw it out there. Round 1, you say trade a pair of hits. So you're probably going to do that, right? Round 2, the sub gets a hit, even if it dies. Well, guess what happens? Now where do you put the plane? It's got a range of 1. Can't land, can't land, can't land. It's all C zones. Can only go here, can't land. Done. Alright, so that's that example. Now this one is even more dirty. You're attacking a carrier, a battleship, and a transport. Now, what you're trying to do here is you don't want the Japanese to keep moving all their stuff around. So, another example, right? You take out the destroyer, you killed the transport for this dude who may or may not have been in there, right? Now, on this one, you got 4 submarines attacking. You're hoping for a couple of 1s. That way you can pick which one vehicle you take out. Doesn't really matter which one. It's just, you know. But you got your submarines in here. You can't hit the plane. So it's 4 hits here that the enemy can take. And they can't take the hits on the planes. So if you get 4 hits, these ships are dead. But if you target select a hit, you can skip those ships and take the transport out. Handy to know. And yes, the planes can shoot at your subs, but there's no destroyer here, so you get a first strike. So on round 1, if any of these subs hit, whatever they hit can't shoot back, right? So that's the difficulty, right? So maybe you get 3 hits. Well, they got to pick one of these 2 capital ships that's completely destroyed, and then the other one gets to shoot back. I mean, the carrier don't shoot for much, but you know what I mean? You're eliminating their number of hits on you, because right now they got 2 hits with those. The carrier rolls a defense and the battleship, right? So they got 4 hitters, and you've got 4. Their odds are better, but by using your first strike here, you can eliminate possibly either the battleship or the carrier. Especially if you get 2 target selected first strikes, that would be prime. But the odds are pretty low unless you're bringing in, you know, a whole pile of subs. But if you do, take out the battleship. Now it can't even shoot back at you. That's good, right? Most they can get is 3 hits on you. The carrier's not likely to hit you, but say the 2 planes do. Well, now you got 2 shots at a carrier or a transport or both, right? So, options to think about. And a prime example of being a harasser with Australia and your subs. Alright, so that's a little example I'm going to add on to the back end of the submarine and combat air patrol thing here. And we'll leave it at that. I love using subs to kill carriers because they can't shoot the planes. Anyway, have fun. Bye.